Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the the Cancer January 10th, 2020 Lunar Eclipse Part 2. Now, some other things I want to talk about it. First of all, when lunar eclipse comes, and eclipse in general can indicate a departure of a significant person in one's life. Given this is the lunar eclipse, it could be a dominant female in one's life scheme that was very prominent in one's life, played a provocative role in one's life, may actually leave. And it could be depending on some of it could depend on the house, I would say. I mean, let's say if it falls in the 7th house in your chart, this lunar eclipse, it could be a significant other, even a grandmother. It could be the 10th. It may be an authority figure, a dominant female authority figure, or it could be, I mean, just somebody that had some strong, I mean, a female that had a strong authority over you. That might have been an older person. That might have played a dominant female that played a dominant role in your life scheme. If it's in the 8th house, say, it could be somebody that you were in a very intimate sexual relationship with, one that was really not superficial, was very deep. And it could be, I mean, the woman that departs, considering that it does fall in the zodiac sign Cancer, it could be somebody that has a Cancer sun, moon, or ascendant, or simply one that embodies those characteristics. It could be somebody that's very nurturing, very protective, very caring, somebody that has a lot of these Cancerian-like traits. Another thing to look at too. Now, some cases this could be, I mean, when you're talking about full moons in astrology and in eclipses, I mean, it could be about the completion or culmination of things. This could be the end of a Cancerian career, especially if this falls in what I call one of the money work houses, either the 2nd, 6th, or 10th house in one's chart. And it could be something connected like with home remodeling, renovation, roofing, siding, something with real estate. It could be work as a historian, working, doing some family business. It could be working as a home caregiver, doing cultivation, gardening, cooking, some culinary work. It could be working in some kind of restaurant. And the thing about it is the difference, though, considering we're talking about a full moon lunar eclipse in astrology, this could be something which could have something that you may have, a position you may have had for a very prolonged, protracted period, and it could have life-altering implications at this time. It could be that the ending of something can signify the start of something very significant and important as far as your work life goes. Some cases it could be somebody retiring where they're not going to work anymore, period, because this, remember, you're talking about lunar eclipses in astrology. Again, they're more powerful, amplified, and intensified in contrast to a regular full moon in astrology. So these again could have life-altering implications. Now, the thing about this too is when you're talking about eclipses in astrology, this could be very powerful energy. I mean, when you're talking about when it's the full moon lunar eclipse, it's more about having that energy and to be able to actually finish something, to end something that was started. Both, if they could give you vigor, really very strong, vigorous energy. The new moon solar eclipse is more about having the more powerful energy, I believe, to start something, being very invigorated, feeling rejuvenated and revived on a very powerful level. But when you're talking about the lunar eclipse, full moon lunar eclipse, it could be something where you find that the willpower and that strong inordinate vitality and energy to finish something. Now, considering that this is the full moon lunar eclipse in Cancer, this could be something Cancerian related. And when you're talking about this as well, and when I want to expound on this as well, people, that when finishing something, it may be something that you may seem very unattainable, insurmountable, but you might have a better chance of actually accomplishing it. And surprising yourself. This could be doing something Cancerian related, such as it could be your real estate closing, it could be closing a certain amount of houses in a certain amount of time, which you thought was like an insurmountable task, but maybe you're able to find that way to actually finish it, and you do something in some record time for yourself, like a personal high in terms of the amount that you close. And it could be something related with cooking, or some culinary work, or swimming, or doing some historical data or research. It could be home remodeling, renovation, anything that could be Cancerian related. Now I'll give an example. Let's say somebody gives you, a certain amount of time to finish, like you're doing some interior decoration. You're doing some interior decoration for the home, and you have a certain deadline to complete this by. Then it's some home decorating project, but then what happens is you're told it requires more work than previously stated, but you still have the extra time, and you don't have the extra time to finish it. You still have the same amount of time. Yet you might find out what happens is you get this burst of energy, this vigorous energy, in order to finish the project. That is just one example. Now, let's take another example. Let's say something that's sport related. That could be Cancerian, related to the zodiac sign Cancer. So say take some water sport. Let's take something like surfing. Someone tells you, you have a friend or some acquaintances says, well, hey, let's go out surfing, and he says, well, the waves won't be higher than X amount, a feet or whatever, or inches or whatever it might be. And then when you get there, you're seeing the waves, and it turns out to be a more daunting task to ride these waves than previously indicated. They might be a little higher than you originally anticipated, but you figure you're there, you're going to try to conquer it because you feel like you have no other choice, because you're out there and you don't want to back down or whatever. So you rise to the occasion, and you actually ride the wave. And to your astonishment, maybe you're able to do it. That's another example. Now let's take something else that could be Cancerian related, the art of rescuing. Cancer may be the consummate rescuer of the zodiac, I'd say, along with the zodiac sign Pisces. They're both notorious for being rescuers. Now, let's say that somebody's drowning, and they're in a perilous situation, and you dive into these depths of water, and you're like, oh, this is so deep. How am I going to save this person? But you get this unfounded energy at the last second or whatever, and you're able to just get in there and rescue this person. That's what you're talking about, full moon energy. And this is like eclipse. I mean, being an eclipse, it could be something that has much more significance, and it's something where an event could happen that could be life altering. So if you save somebody and you rescue somebody, obviously this could be something that could be a life altering event, because it could be something, for example, that gains some notoriety, some recognition, or what have you. It might even lead to some career change or some chance connection that may occur because of this event. So now another thing I want to talk about is there's the Mars theory, as far as this goes, that a transit Mars, if it hits transit Mars hits the degree of the eclipse, and if you weren't really understanding what it actually meant to you, and as far as specifically how it pertained to you, it can actually make this figurative incision, and it can open it up and unveil the meaning to you. Now, the problem with this, though, in this particular case, it's going to take some time before the transit Mars in Cancer makes that conjunction to this full moon, the full moon position at this time, the lunar eclipse degree, and in the sign. So it could be a situation where maybe somebody you might know might have this Mars position conjunct this moon in Cancer position at the time of the eclipse, and be able to maybe open it up to you and open up to what this meaning could be. And another thing too is that to look at, I would say too, that when transit Mercury makes a conjunction to this lunar eclipse degree, it could unveil, maybe it could give some kind of comprehension in terms of how it specifically means to you in your chart. If you're not already cognizant of it, or you're unaware of what it actually means to you before this time, and you'd be able to articulate and verbalize this meaning. So anyway, Now, let's say another example. Let's say somebody has their natal sun conjunct the moon eclipse degree. Now, they can pretty much shine light, so to speak, on the meaning of it to you personally. If someone has their natal Mercury conjunct the full moon degree, again, you may not have to wait for the transit Mercury to make that conjunction to that full moon degree. If somebody has this, might be somebody that has their natal Mercury making a conjunction to that full moon degree, they might have some mental comprehension and be able to articulate and verbalize what it may mean to you. And another thing too, I wanted to get at. This is something you might not hear about and from other astrologers in these videos, but a thing about conception, I would be reluctant at this time as far as conceiving, because there can be something that might not go right with the birth. Because it's, now let me elaborate and expound why this could be. Because especially if, well, this, what I'm saying is this, if you were born under a full moon, there could be a greater, if you, in other words, if your chart is one where you have a full moon in your chart, your natal chart, this could give a greater propensity perhaps for your child to be born with an intellectual disability or something where the person is intellectually hindered very strongly. It could be very substantial or significant intellectual disability. Now, some may wonder, well, Edwin, could it be possible that it could be a deformity of the child? I guess that could be possible, and if there's other, I mean, I don't know if that is true, how that works. This is just something I'm talking about as far as an intellectual disability. There may be a greater propensity for that. But I mean, a deformity, perhaps that could occur if there's something in the natal chart, maybe as well, that would give, maybe give greater proclivity towards that. But the thing about it is, what I do believe, though, as far as the intellectual disability, there could be a greater propensity for this, because, well, Edwin, you probably wonder, well, Edwin, but why is that, though? I mean, okay, you take somebody that's born with a full moon in their chart, okay, they have the opposition between their sun and their moon. If you have the conception during the eclipse, and if it's taking place during this time of the full moon, and this is an eclipse, remember that this is very amplified, intensified energy. This could be, remember that the sun is like that male proponent, and the female is the moon is like that female proponent, is the female proponent basically. And if you got them opposing each other, they're adversarial. It's like the male energy and the female would be in conflict. So I would look at this and be very leery about, if you're going to conceive, not to do this on the time of this full moon. If you do have if your chart has, if your natal chart has a full moon in it. So anyway, and remember, the fact it's on an eclipse could even make it more pronounced and intensified. This is just it'd be something that would not be necessarily I mean, it may not be an auspicious result, the outcome. So as far as the birth goes, so I would just wait on that till you feel it's till at least it's after that time. I don't know. I mean, you might want to look at some fertility charts online or what have you, and see what's auspicious for you to actually do this if you are planning on conceiving around this time. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about is, I thought there was something interesting I saw online. There's going to be something that's going to take place in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's the Department of Homeland Security. It's going to be coming to some computer electronics show somewhere around January 6th, and it's 6th or 7th. It's going to end at the 10th of January. I believe, of course, the 10th of January is the full moon lunar eclipse. Now, the thing about this is, well, I mean, this could be, I mean, when you're talking about eclipses in astrology, they can be life-altering moments. They're going to be, I mean, keep in mind, during this time where you're going to have the Department of Homeland Security at this Consumer Electronics Show, they're going to be, one of the constituents of this Homeland Security is going to be cybersecurity and border protection. Security and protection are both, interestingly, they're associated with the zodiac sign Cancer. And the thing about this is, it's not so much that the moment you go there, so people that go there would necessarily have a monumental, with something monumental would happen at that precise time necessarily, but it might be something that could lead to something very powerful in one's life later on, such as being inspired to get a career in cybersecurity or something with border protection, and being more, maybe more, if there's any way to be proactive in those matters, for example, and in doing some work, whether whether it be paid or not paid, something where you're showing maybe support for one or both of these things I mentioned, and as far as the cybersecurity and border protection. And that's where something where this could actually lead to something very prominent in your life. And anyway, people, that's what I wanted to get at pretty much. So that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for my take on the January 10th, 2020 full moon lunar eclipse in Cancer part 2. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.